Okay, welcome to my tutorial on Ultra Key. This is for anybody who's trying to key within Premiere. This is the first one I've ever done for y'all, and I'm excited. Hopefully, you're able to follow along. If not, hopefully, this is informative. And if you like to write things down like I do, write things down. Um, This shouldn't take too long. I already pulled up an example video that I'm working on right now from my buddy MetaMatt. And we're going to key out the green screen footage of his footage. So first things first, I like to have the video selected. It's a pretty long video here. It's about 20 minutes worth of content that we chop up to get to a place for his TikToks. So first things first, we're going to go to the effects panel. As you can see in my effect controls panel, I already have an Ultra Key in there. It's off because I want to show you guys the example. So in our effects, I'm going to type in Ultra Key, pull it up. I'm going to drag it right in. You can also double click it for those that don't know that. It's a neat little trick. Your video just has to be selected for that to happen. So if it's selected in the sequence and you double click it, you're good. So here we have the Ultra Key, and it has tons and tons of cool settings for you to get the perfect key. If you have the time to take to create a perfect key within Premiere. That being said, most of my heavy duty stuff in terms of green screen keying does take place within After Effects. I just think it has so much more functionality, and you can go so much deeper and really get it to a perfect state for your project. But Ultra Key is a great low-end version to work in, and I'll run through each setting with you guys to show you how it goes. So we have the video here. I'm going to go ahead and grab this eyedropper to select my key color, and we're going to start there. What I like to do is when I select the color, I always hold down the control key. In doing so, that gives me I forget what they say. I think it's like a 5% ratio within the color. So it'll select anything that's within 5% of the range that you're selecting. So there we have the color selected. Obviously, we have a ton of work to do here because we see a lot of white, and usually that signifies how much we missed, right? So what I typically like to do with matte stuff generally is I'll go to the output and just so I can run through. So we see that matte's not selected at all, which is always good. If you go down the alpha channel, if you go to the color channel, you can see that it's actually grayed out, but we stick in the composite. And in terms of settings, I like to start at aggressive. The reason for that is it gets you to a pretty good starting point. If I pull that up, you can see, there's not a lot of spill. We do have to work on the edges quite a bit. But in terms of the key, it's not terrible. You get a little bit down here shining through in the bottom left corner, but we can mess with that. So this is where we have a bit of fun, and we mess with this. So we have the matte generation key, and this is working within the color schemes of the key that we created. So transparency obviously messes with the transparency of him. We don't want to mess with that too much. Highlight obviously means that the brighter sections, that's what we'll be messing with that. So notice if I bring it up to 100, that's where the light was shining on matte. So it's that top corner there. I won't have to mess with that too much because it did a pretty good job with the aggressive on this one. Shadows, obviously the darker spots. So if I bring that up to 100, those are all the darker green parts where the light's not really hitting evenly. And the cool thing about things like tolerance and pedestal, you can adjust the range of the color selected in tolerance. So that's pretty cool. If I bring it high and low, because it's already aggressive, it's not really messing with it too much, but you see how it's like expanding the bottom left corner of the colors that are still on there. That's where you're messing with in that. And the pedestal, which is where this is really going to be affected. So if we brought the pedestal all the way down, look at all that green that's left over. So this is where mostly we're going to be doing our work on MetaMat right now. So if I bring that up to 50, we're in pretty good shape. Still got that corner. But let's see if we bring it up higher. So if we brought it up to 100, it's almost all the way gone. Obviously still kind of affecting him a bit, mostly around his hair. But that's a pretty good spot. And then if we mess with the choke right here, that'll bring it into his hair a little bit.
They beat the Grizzlies.
So let me put it on full here just so we get a feel.
4-2. So holders get a round 2 NFT
so his
ticket
head
sub
is, like,
for
shimmering
free, and certain
out.
holders won an autographed Warriors team
that.
basketball.
Especially around the edges. So I'll probably just bring the choke right back down to 10. The whole reason that I didn't want to mess with that too much is I do want Matt to kind of stay within.
They beat the Mavericks.
I want him to stay distant from the background that we're going to put on him. So now we can go, let's go back down to 10 on the choke. And the soften's really going to mess with his hair.
4-1 in round 3, so holders really get a Warriors Western.
If you want him to blend really well into the background that you're working in, I like to create a soften because it blurs his edges, which kind of gives you like a really nice depth of field feel. So I always blur my backgrounds when I'm working on MetaMat, and the reason I do that is because I use soften on him so much to kind of create a bit of distance between him and his background. So for him, I won't have it at 100, but I'll probably have it around 60 just to create that softness around his edges. The contrast, pretty obvious what the contrast does. Same way the color contrast works. You're messing with the highs and the lows of the green. And us blasting that to 100
the conference
actually got rid of
banner NFT.
A good portion of that corner. So if you notice over here, there's
also
really
one
just a
prize
little bit of
from
shimmering now. So with that little bit of shimmering, we'll just have to make some fine-tuning adjustments. But that was really the problem in that corner, was the contrast color there. Midpoint, I don't really use midpoint all that often. I know the purpose of it. It's really just to bring the midpoints of the color you're using, so like the greens. It's really to bring that higher or lower. It's got to save here, sorry. Spill suppression, we don't have to worry about with Matt too much because he doesn't get a lot of spill. He gets a little bit of green over here, but that's stuff that I don't really like to change too much because we're not trying to make, it's not like we're working on a major motion picture here. But spill suppression and color correction are basically color correcting the channel that still exists. So we'd be color correcting him. So if I brought the spill up, let's just, for the sake of it, bring it up to 80. So it gets like a little bit out. If you really are working on a project that has a very high amount of spill, I would bring that into After Effects just because the tool is so much stronger in there. But just to show you, so here's the difference. So this is what we started with. Super green. And I can actually see now why the contrast worked. Because if you look right here, there's such a match shadows are really playing an effect here. If it was better lit, probably wouldn't have this problem. In fact, probably if you threw an aggressive ultra key on there, probably it'd solve the problem, no problem. But because he's dealing with so many shadows and the color range of the green. You see how it goes from like a very light green to a very dark green in this general area very easily. That's where contrast plays a role. Even if you were to go straight on, I would still probably have to deal with the shadows. It'd be closer to his body, but just in general, you would still have to deal with the shadows. That is why so many people, if you watch behind the scenes stuff in terms of films, and they're working on a green screen, they usually have the person set very far away from the green screen. On top of that, the green screen's incredibly well lit, the same way the person's well lit. So you need to get that like even drawback. And if you get the green screen all one color, it makes keying out that much better. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this brief tutorial, and hopefully it works for you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment. I'll answer the questions as best I can. But yeah, good luck in keying out your greens, your blues, whatever you're used to keying out. Good luck with it. Any questions, I'm always around to answer. Thanks so much, guys. Take care.